Hello there, how are you? Welcome back to How I Did It. Today's video I'm going to show you how I tied in my GFCIs into my distribution sub-panel here and the sub-panel that I installed on the inside of the shed that is going to supply my hybrid inverter should my solar panels and my wind turbine not be able to keep up.
Here's a little wiring hint for you. Put the ground up. That way if anything falls on the plug, it won't short out across. On the plug itself, I always remember white goes to the silver screw and black goes to the bronze screw. So dark to dark, light to light, and then your green or your bare to ground.
And on your GFCI, you're always bringing your power into the line, your line in. Always remember, power in, line in. They'll have that yellow piece of tape across the other two screws, but that's to send power out to another load. So remember, line is in, and then if you want to load up another outlet, the load is to go out. Now I'm just going to finish up here and show you real quick how I attach these wires through. So the ground came through to the independent ground bar, the neutral went up to the neutral bar, and this hot feed or the black wire is going to go to the breaker. And that is what is going to supply the power to that GFCI. Believe it or not, it really is that simple to tie in another breaker if you need another breaker within your service. There we go. Okay. That's just a real quick, overview of it. I'm going to go ahead and close this up, do a quick test on this GFCI, and then we will move on to the shed GFCI. Now I also used two different types of waterproof exterior covers. This one is nice because it is spring loaded, so if you don't hold it up, it's going to come closing down on you. And both work. The reset worked, so we're good to go. Okay, so moving on to my GFCI number 2. Now, every time I have purchased GFCI plugs, whether it be a single plug or a multi-pack of these GFCI plugs, they all have like a yellow paper or a yellow band over a set of the screws, one white screw or silver screw and one bronze screw or copper colored screw. And that's because those particular screws are for you to send power from that GFCI out. So to bring your power in, and the way that I always remember to bring the power in, I have to go in the line to go in. And that's where I attach my wires on these GFCIs. So when you turn them over and you look at it, one will be under that yellow label, that'll say load, that goes out to the load. The other one without that yellow label, it'll say line, and that's your line to come in. That's your line to bring in your power. And that's how I was able to put it to memory, only because a lot of times you may have an extra GFCI lying around and that yellow label fell off, and then you're like, oh my goodness, which one gets what? Okay, how do I remember it? Well, I remember to get into the concert I have to go in the line, and that's how I remember the line is where the power comes in. I know it sounds crazy. Anyway, now the really cool part about this particular cover that I'm using on this one, you put the screws in but you don't tighten them all the way down, and then the cover just slides over the front of them, shifts in place, and then you just tighten it down. And with it being a completely clear cover, at a glance you can see whether or not the plug is actually working because it has the little indicator light. But just that easy, it goes on, slides over, tighten it down. The foam backing that comes with this creates that waterproof seal, and then the lid cover comes right on down. Now moving inside of the sub panel, it's going to be wired up just how I've shown you over the last three videos. So you're going to have a ground, you're going to have the white or the neutral, and you're going to have your black, which is your power. The black is going to go into your circuit breaker. The ground is going to the independent ground bar, and the white or the neutral is going to go up to that independent neutral bar up at the top. It's really very simple once you do it a few times. It's so much easier to remember than you think. So here I'm just tightening down the wire coming in, and then I'm going to go ahead and strip this wire back. And again, remember, leave extra length there, so if at any time you need to go back and modify your connection, you'll have wire to move around inside of your electrical panel. So the first one I'm attaching here is my ground. This ground goes straight over to the independent ground bar you saw me hook in a couple weeks ago. When you tighten these down, don't be afraid to get on it and really crank it well. Now the problem that I run into with this Easy Shed are these walls are pretty flexible. So it took a little bit more to actually get it tightened, but I did get it done. So here the ground is good. I'm going to go ahead, just cinch that up. And before I closed this box up, I didn't put it on video, but I did go back and double check every single one of my connections before I actually went back and hit the power breaker. I guess I should have pointed that out too. Make sure your power is disconnected prior to getting in here and working on stuff. So this is my white wire coming out of that back side of that GFCI, and it's going up into the neutral bar. And the neutral bar, you notice, has the big service line coming in with the white on it. That's your neutral, dedicated neutral. You have a dedicated ground in here and the dedicated neutral. All of my white wires, if I add any breakers in, they go up there on that neutral. And then the last one out of the piece of this pie is the power for the GFCI, or the black one. And this is going to go into my breaker. Simply put it into the back of the breaker, tighten it down, and then these breakers just rock on. And again, this is all square D. They're home line square Ds. This breaker is supposed to be a 20 amp breaker, but at the time I was purchasing breakers, they only had a 30 amp, so I'm actually just installing this into the box so I'll have an actual working outlet outside. Once I go pick up more 20 amp breakers, I will just simply take the cover off and install it. Now you just pop out the next little knockout. Your panel fits right back over the top, and then you set your two face screws in to hold it in place. Always remember to go ahead and take the time to label your stuff. Once you got that, we're going to go back, turn the power on, and then we're going to go back over to the GFCI and we're going to hit the test button. It's just that simple. Alrighty then, you all have an absolutely wonderful and blessed week. I'll see you next time. Take care.